Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coping Skills Tool Belt, which is our free workshop series for healthcare workers. And for the most part, it looks like there's mental health professionals on the call with us today. So I'm really excited to welcome all of you. A little bit about me. My name is Dana Markson. I am owner and director of Mind Soother Therapy Center, which is a group psychotherapy practice located in Livingston, and we're now 100% online right now. We have 9 therapists, and we run 8 weekly DBT skills and psychotherapy groups, in addition to working with teens and families. And I am also owner of a Facebook group / coaching system called Rockstar Practice, which you can see I put in the chat. If you want to join our free Facebook group, feel free to do that by clicking on that link, and I will admit you to our Facebook group. So this workshop series is for you, the mental health professional. This is not a clinical workshop for you to take the training and teach your clients. This is for you. This started because people were reaching out to me, including NASW and some other programs, and saying, what can you teach us about being a therapist right now and how to keep yourself calm and maintain your grounding and a sense of control and optimism during this difficult time. So I created this free workshop series, and I hope you get a lot out of it. I'm going to turn it over right now to my very esteemed colleague and associate at Mind Soother Therapy Center, Tessa Vining. A little bit about Tessa. She is a licensed clinical social worker and an LCADC. Tessa has been with Mind Soother for 6 years now, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with her and watch her grow as a therapist. And it is my pleasure to offer this time to her to take you through how to use EMDR resourcing to manage anxiety and trauma during this very difficult time. So welcome, Tessa.
Thank you, Dana, and welcome everyone. It's nice to see so many familiar names and faces. I do encourage you to ask questions through the chat feature as we move along. I'm going to start by talking briefly about myself and why I chose to take an EMDR training, and then do a brief overview of what EMDR is, a very brief overview. And then we're mainly going to focus on the resourcing aspect of EMDR processing and work on a few activities that you can practice for yourselves, especially when you're in the trenches like we all are today. You know, lots of people are needing our services. Lots of people need us to be in a calm, a calming force for them. And it's good for us to be able to have some tools in our toolkit to be able to practice to calm and center ourselves, and to also manage and process some of the traumas that we've had in our lives, or the secondary trauma that we're experiencing through our work in the field. So a little bit about myself. As Dana mentioned, I'm an LCSW and an LCADC. I've been practicing in the world of social work since 2001. I've been with Mind Soother for the past 6 years, but before that, I spent a lot of time working in the addictions field. I worked for a number of addictions programs in the city. I was first exposed to EMDR back in social work school. We had a speaker come in and talk about EMDR processing, and I just thought it was amazing. And I thought to myself, wow, if I ever get the chance, I definitely want to learn more about this. So fast forward to, I think I want to say 2016, 2017, I decided to participate in an EMDR training. For me, it was important to use that because I was finding that I was only getting so far with my clients, especially in the addictions world. As you know, a high number of clients in the addictions world experience trauma. So I was finding that I was only getting so far with them. And so learning EMDR has really helped me break through some of that. It helped my clients break through some of that. Okay, next slide, please. Back one slide. Okay, thank you. Okay, so what is EMDR therapy? So EMDR therapy is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. It was developed by a clinician named Francine Shapiro in 1987, and she too was finding that she was hitting a wall with her clients. A lot of people wonder if EMDR is hypnosis. It is actually not hypnosis. The importance of EMDR is actually staying very present in the room and staying very grounded in the room. A lot of people wonder how it works, feel like it's maybe a little hocus pocus, but the truth is that EMDR has been researched extensively. It's been used and researched within war veterans, and it has been proven to minimize the distress that people are experiencing from their traumatic experiences and situations. If you go to the EMDRIA.org website, they cite tons of research that you can look into. Big research and small populations and larger populations as well. Most people think that EMDR is mostly used for people who've experienced large traumas, but it has also been proven to work and help people with big T traumas, so that's big traumas, and little t traumas. So think of people who've experienced, I work with a lot of adolescents, so I get a lot of young adults who experience bullying throughout their school years, feelings of being left out or minimized. So EMDR has really been shown to be effective in all sorts of different experiences, whether a big trauma, like a sexual assault, a car accident, war, traumatic experiences like that, or small traumas, and people who suffer from things like depression, anxiety, those sorts of things. Okay, next slide, please. So very briefly, and I'm not going to do EMDR a real service in explaining exactly how it works, but I want to just give you a quick overview. EMDR helps to reprocess traumatic experiences that leave a person in a constant state of feeling overwhelmed, or like they're back in that traumatic moment, or the feeling that they're stuck in time, frozen in time. So as you guys know from your work in the trauma field, it's very hard for people to get past that experience of being re-traumatized over and over again. A lot of times they're very hypervigilant, have a hard time relaxing, can't reduce the anxiety. And the other big piece that EMDR taps into is the body's response to holding trauma. So the experience of EMDR, okay, or the traumatic experience, right, is still remembered in the fight, flight, or freeze response. So it's been shown that EMDR greatly reduces those reactions to their trauma experience or experiences that are reminders of the trauma, subconsciously, unconsciously. Remember, we hold that trauma in our body. So something that seems not connected can flare up that response. That's what we're looking to reduce through the EMDR process. So we focus on a SUD scale, which for many of you probably know is the subjective unit of distress, which goes 0 to 10. So you will hear me reference your SUD. Okay, I will ask you at times to think of an experience that brings your SUD up just a little bit as we practice some of these techniques, okay? So EMDR looks to get the SUD scale down from anywhere, hopefully 0 to 1. So we'll be checking in with our SUD scale. It does that by utilizing bilateral stimulation, BLS. You'll also hear me reference BLS. Bilateral stimulation is a side-by-side rhythmic pattern using eye movements, sounds, tapping. Sounds can be snapping, music. I was in a training last week where they talked about music. and tapping on the body or on the legs, which you can't see me do, okay? And eye movement. We're all trained in eye movement. So we're gonna practice bilateral stimulations on ourselves, but just so you have an idea, and I don't know if I'm eye level with you, we move our fingers back and forth, and we ask people to follow our fingers with just their eyes. That's a form of bilateral stimulation. Other practitioners, clinicians use a light bar where you can follow the light, which is kind of cool. Others will use a pointer that you can follow. Let's see, like something like a pen. And we're not just going back and forth. There's all sorts of patterns we'll do depending on what's happening with the processing. Figure eights, we can move in diagonals as well. And pacing is important as well. You learn to read what the pacing is, what a client can handle. So today, for the purpose of our practice and our self-practice, because remember, we're really doing this to help ourselves process through some of the things we're experiencing these days. We're going to do BLSs at a slow pace because when we're installing resourcing techniques, we do them at a slower pace. And I'm going to give you guys just a few techniques you can use for today to practice self-BLS, okay? So we could do what I like to call the hug. So that's crossing your arms over your chest. So if everybody could just practice. It's crossing your arms over your chest. And then side by side, rhythmic pattern of slow tapping on your shoulders. This is the one I like to do the best for myself. But you can also put your hands on your legs as well. Put them on your legs right above your knees. And you can slowly, you can't really see me right now, but I am slowly tapping my knees. Great. So that's the type of bilateral stimulation I'm going to encourage you to use today. Okay, good. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so today our focus is going to be mostly on, or really all on, resourcing. Okay, some of these may be new to you. Some of these might look and sound familiar. Other types of therapies utilize these techniques and skills. So resourcing, just so you know, in the EMDR world, takes place at the beginning stages of EMDR as a preparatory process to help people achieve relaxation, but still stay grounded and alert in the process. So it's important for us to make sure that clients have proper resourcing before we jump into the processing of traumatic memories. EMDR is nice in a way. We don't ask you to recount the traumatic experience from the beginning to the end and all the details in the middle. It's really about just experiencing what comes up in your body and your mind while we are processing through bilateral stimulation, okay? However, some of those things that do come up to the surface can be very upsetting and deregulating. Therefore, we need to make sure that people or ourselves have the proper techniques to be able to calm themselves. So we start off in the beginning by resourcing. We want to make sure that they're able to do some of this stuff in the middle of processing. And of course, we don't, I don't want people to leave the room or for us to kind of leave our space dysregulated. So we use it as a container as well. We use this resourcing to get ourselves to a good closure place as well. Okay, so the resourcing techniques that we are going to focus on today, there's 3 of them. The first one is called creating a calm, safe space. The second one is the use of an activity called light stream. And the third is a grounding exercise called the 4 elements of light. So we're going to go into the first practice. Next slide, please. Okay. Yes, the safe, calm space. Okay, so I want to encourage you guys to get very comfortable in your seat, create a nice mood in the room that you're using. The practice of the safe, calm space is to develop and install an imaginary safe or calm space, a place where you can feel really good, really safe, cozy, and okay. And the practice we're going to do today is we're going to anchor this space in your body and mind through a guided imagery where we're going to tap into all the 5 senses. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're each going to develop that safe space for ourselves. So I want to invite you to close your eyes, or half close your eyes, or keep them open, whatever's most comfortable for you. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth in order to center and calm yourself. Bring up a place or an object or a person that you find safe and calming. It could be a place that you visited before, or a place you want to go to, or a completely made up space. There's no rules to this. As you find yourself in that space, I want you to look around and notice what you see in that space. Notice the colors. Notice whether you're there alone or if you're surrounded by any people, animals, objects. Notice the colors around you, above you, below you, all around. Take a few seconds in this space. Next, I want you to listen. What do you hear in this space? Do you hear the crunching of leaves underneath your feet as you're walking through the woods? Water running somewhere off in the distance? The sound of crashing waves? Children laughing? Notice the sounds of the space that you're creating for yourself. Next, let's move to smell. Take a deep breath in. What are the smells of your surrounding? Are you at your grandmother's house and she's cooking pasta with meatballs? Are you on the beach and have the smell of suntan lotion or the heat on your skin? Or are you in the woods with an earthy smell right after a light rain? Take a moment and focus on the smell. Next, we're going to move to taste. If you were to breathe in the air through your mouth, what would the air taste like? Would it taste earthy? Or maybe you're sitting in your kitchen in your coziest blanket, having a cup of tea. What does that tea taste like in your mouth? Take a moment and focus and just notice the taste. And last but not least, touch. When you touch those things that are surrounding you, what are you feeling? Is it the softness of a cozy blanket? Is it your hands in the sand? Is it your feet in the cool water? Notice the touch. Take a moment and stay in this space. And I want you to identify one word, a cue word, that takes you to this space. One cue word that reminds you of this space, this safe, calm space. And when you're ready, I invite you to come back to the room and open your eyes. Okay, nice. Now we're going to put this in action. Okay, so we're going to stay with the safe, calm space. Well, if you could go back, Dana, real quick. Okay. We're going to do a little exercise to just show how this cue word can be used along with slow bilateral stimulation to reduce your SUD level. So let's take a moment. I know I just put you in a very calm space, but I'm going to ask you to maybe bring up in your mind's eye a little experience you had recently that caused a slight irritation or frustration or sadness, okay? Nothing too big. I don't want you to, get your SUD scale up too high, right? Something that brings you to maybe like a 4 or a 5, okay? A frustrating conversation you had, maybe dealing with insurance companies, or a story you heard from a client, okay? So just take 15 seconds to try to come up with that experience. And as you bring that up, I want you to scan your body, starting with your head, and go all the way down to your feet. And I want you to scan your body and see if you can notice any discomfort. Where does this experience live in your body? Just notice it. Don't attach yourself to it. Just notice it. The next thing I'd like you to do then is let's keep that cue word in mind, okay? I want you to close your eyes and pick whichever self-BLS you'd like to use, okay? And I want you to slowly start tapping using the self-BLS. And I want you to bring up that cue word. Think of that word you identified as you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And allow yourself to go back to that space that you just created. Remember to tap into your 5 senses. And we're going to do this for about 30 seconds to a minute. Remember to breathe in through your nose and out through the mouth. And practice bringing up the cue word in your mind. I invite you to come back into the room, rescan your body, and check in with that SUD level again. Hopefully you'll notice a decrease in that number on the SUD scale. Okay. Very good, thank you. I guess we'll leave some questions to the end, or Jana, are there any questions you'd like me to answer?
There's no questions about this right now. I think we should maybe keep going and we'll save the questions for the end.
That sounds good. I'd be curious if people experienced more lightness in their body or a decrease in their SUD level. Maybe by just using, on the bottom bar of Zoom, there's reactions. If you click on reactions, you can get a little thumbs up or a hand clapping. I'd be curious if anyone was able to use their cue word and get their SUD level lower. Awesome.
You could also add in the chat any comments about your SUD level, and then I can read them out loud.
Cool.
Anyone want to add? We'll move on, and then we'll come back to reading some of the responses.
Awesome.
Yeah, just wanted to jump in for a second. My chat is disabled, so I don't know if that's the same for others. So I'm not able to contribute to the chat right now because it's been disabled.
Okay. I will check on that while we continue. Thank you for jumping on, Vanessa. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. And we will have time for question and answer at the end, and maybe also some sharing of techniques that maybe work for you guys as well. Okay, so let's move on to our second practice. Okay. Which will be the light stream. I really like this one too. I find that this is a pretty powerful practice, especially for people who carry a lot of their emotional responses in their body, a lot of their feelings in their body, and a lot of their trauma experiences in their body. You know, I've noticed that my mind can be somewhat calm, but my chest will feel tight, or my stomach will hurt, or my shoulders will be more tense. So my body tends to tell me a little bit more of the story sometimes than I allow my mind to. So this practice is called light stream. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do again is to bring up another experience that tends to move your distress level up on the scale. It could be the same experience, although if we just process through that one, you can pick another one. Sometimes if I think too long about the situation that we're in currently, I notice that that moves my SUD a bit quicker. So I'm going to give you a moment to just bring that up. And then again, we're going to move towards scanning our bodies from our head to our toe. And I want you to notice any upsetting sensations that you feel or that you're holding in your body. So again, take a moment. You can shut your eyes or keep them open. I want you to scan as you're thinking about this experience. I want you to scan from the top of your head down to your toes and notice any discomfort in the body. While you're doing that, I want you to ask yourself, if this discomfort or this experience had a shape, what would that shape be? If it had a size, what size would it be? And if it had a color, what color would that experience or discomfort be? Go ahead and take a moment and identify those things. The next question I want to ask you is, what color do you associate with healing? Don't think on it too hard. Whatever color first pops up in your mind as your healing color, use that. So again, I want to invite you to go through this experience with me. Shut your eyes or keep them half shut. And imagine that a light of this healing color is coming in through the top of your head and directing itself at the sensation in your body. Let's pretend that the source of light is in the cosmos, so the more you use, the more you have available to you. The light will move through your head, envelop your face, move down through your neck. It will continue its journey throughout your body. The light, the healing light that is, will direct itself at the sensations, the shape, the trauma color, and it will vibrate in and around that space. As it does this, experience what happens to the discomfort, to the shape, to the size, and to the color that you're holding in your body. As you breathe in, more of your healing color enters your body. It travels down your face, down your neck, into your shoulders. Take another deep breath in and out as the light continues to travel down through your arms and through your torso, encapsulating your abdomen, your pelvis, your hips. Breathe in and out. As the light, your healing light, continues to move through your thighs, down into your calf area, and through your feet. And if you could imagine, the healing light is pushing out the color associated with the discomfort in your body. One more deep breath in and out as your healing light envelops your whole body and pushes the discomfort and the negative light out of your palms and the bottom of your feet. When you can, please come back to the room when you're ready. Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you guys. All right, so that one I really like, especially, like I said, especially for people that hold a lot of their traumatic experiences in their body. It's so nice to know that you can have a healing color that holds the power to move some of these things out of your system. Now, again, we could do this and support this or enhance this through the bilateral simulation, okay? So this helps to enhance the experience, okay? So if you want it, when you're taking a moment to do the light stream exercise, to bring your healing light into your body, the BLSs can help install that experience for you within your body, anchor it a little bit more, okay? And also to access it and intensify it. All right, great. Okay, and let's go into our final grounding experience. This one is called the 4 elements of light, and this is a grounding practice. I'm sure many of you have done grounding practices within your practice and for yourselves, okay? This is really good for really maybe setting the tone to enter into one of these techniques that we just did, the safe and calm space, okay, or the light stream. So the 4 elements of light. So let's take a moment again to bring up an experience again that maybe gets our distress level up just a little bit. Or maybe an experience that we tend to push away and disassociate from. We tend to detach from. I know I'm encouraging you to bring those things back into the room, but again, we're going to do it safely. So bring that experience up in your mind's eye. And this one you don't have to close your eyes for, because we're going to use our environment to ground us. So the 4 elements are air, earth, water, and fire. So the first thing we want to do is focus on air. So I want you to take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. We're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Great. So that's the first element of air. Next, we're going to focus on earth. This is an easy one to remember. Earth is, notice your feet on the ground. So we're going to ground our feet on the earth. You can take off your shoes if you want. Sometimes I find that helps me connect to the ground a little bit better. Some people even like to take off their socks and shoes. Feel the chair beneath your backside and behind you. So feel the chair underneath you and ground, anchor yourself in the earth. I'm even putting my arms on my chair. Okay. So anchor yourself to the earth through your feet, and if you're sitting, through your backside and your back. Now, I'm going to encourage you to make saliva in your mouth. This is the water element. So take a minute and get some saliva in your mouth. And that is the water element. And last but not least, we move to the fire element. We're going to look around the room that you're in and identify something in the room that's the color of fire. Identify objects that burn red, orange, yellow, blue, or white. Okay. 4 elements of light. Good. So this is an important practice in EMDR and for yourself to use, but specifically with EMDR, and those of you who have worked with people or experienced your own trauma, you really understand that, you know, our body's natural tendency to disassociate, to move away from these techniques, to move away from the experience because it overwhelms our system. But as I mentioned before, with EMDR, we really want the person and ourselves to stay present, to stay grounding. So through the practice of EMDR, we take notice when someone might be disassociating, or we take notice within ourselves when maybe we're not as connected. And so these grounding techniques are really important to bring us back to the room, to bring us back to the process of processing through our own trauma and anchoring ourselves. Okay, so those are the 3 techniques. There are plenty more that we could do, and I encourage you you can just research, Google around, resourcing EMDR, a bunch of things will pop up. You can go to the Emdria website. They have a lot of good practices as well. And so why don't we open it up to some questions or just some sharing of experience, which would be great. And I will try my best to answer your questions. And if for some reason I don't have the answer, we will get back to you.
So the chat is now available to everybody. And I just invited everyone to share how these techniques have just worked for you. Maybe put a little comment in the chat. What did you notice in your mind and body?
Yeah.
And then I'll read them out loud and just sort of checking in with people. Lisa wrote, really well. I'm very easily able to bring up my SUD, and techniques helped lower it very easily.
Great.
Vanessa said, I've been feeling overwhelmed lately, a lot of pressure in my chest, feeling so much lighter now. Thank you for this.
Very good.
Rosalia, will you be forwarding the recording to the participants? Yes, we will. Thank you for asking out. And then the PowerPoint as well. Is it okay with you, Tessa, if I share the PowerPoint to the participants?
Yes, yeah, as long as you keep the Mind Soother information on there, but absolutely. And I also referenced where I pulled information from, so that's important as well.
Lisa shared, the tapping and breathing lowered my SUD only because I had to concentrate on doing these 2 things at once. Does it get easier? Would you like to answer that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I think too, the longer you do it, the more of the, you know, the rhythmic process you're going to get into, and it will become easier as well. So yes, I do think like with practice and elongating it, it'll become easier.
Great. Sharon had a great question. She said, my question is about the BLS tapping. Can you develop your own pattern and rhythm as they naturally come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can develop your own pattern and rhythm. Everybody responds to it in a different way. I don't know if you were here at the beginning when I started talking, but that's why as clinicians sometimes too, we really mix up the way we are doing the BLSs. We go faster, we go slower, we go in figure eights, so we go diagonally, really. So it really depends on what works for you, which pattern you feel like works for you. Now, when we're installing resources, we tend to go slower. Okay, so the pace is a bit slower when resourcing than it would be if we were actually processing through the memories and the trauma. That's where we speed up the processing. So for these resourcing experiences, just take your time and whatever pace best works for you to find that rhythm, use that.
Great. Jessica shared, this definitely helped. So much tension in my stomach was lessened. That's the point. That's beautiful. Sharon said, I was reminded of areas of my body that stored trauma. Some I knew, and some areas where I was reminded of early trauma. The light stream really worked for me. I will use that in the future. Thank you. I really liked that as well. I had a very strong visual of this big black X and then this purple light and really sort of pushing out that black X out of my body. It was really powerful. I'm going to use that one every day, especially now. It felt very grounding. Dana said the light stream was very powerful, immediately reduced my sweat. Thank you for the technique. Rachel shared the 4 elements of light reminded me of a yoga practice.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, EMDR didn't necessarily create, these, but utilizes a lot of different resourcing and techniques and adapts them.
Right. Maybe you could talk a little bit, Tessa, about when would be a good time as a mental health professional or a healthcare worker right now. When would be a good time for us to use these techniques for ourselves? How do we know it's a good time? When should we use it? Would it be before sessions or in between sessions or after?
Right.
What's your recommendation?
So, for myself, using grounding techniques in order to center myself, clear my mind of all the chaos and everything I'm doing before I actually sit to do my practice with my clients. So I'll do a lot of deep breathing. I love the safe, calm space. For me, I go into nature. I love walking. I love to have the sun on my face. I love leaves and browns and greens. And so for me, that one's very powerful. I can pick up my cue word, which is Vermont, and I can really center myself and calm myself. I had an experience right before I jumped on this presentation. I was talking with Dana. Unfortunately, my kitty cat is not feeling well, and I need to take her over to the vet today. And I was feeling a little out of sorts. I was a little anxious. So for me, I sat, I did the grounding technique. I took a couple of deep breaths, and that allowed me to center myself. During sessions, a little bit tricky, but a lot of times we get triggered by what our client is bringing into the room. So, if you're sensing that, if you're picking that up, you could easily grab one of these resourcing techniques and do it with a client, right? They don't need to know that you're getting dysregulated or that you need to recenter yourself. So you could absolutely, use one of these before. And then of course, these techniques can be used at any point. Maybe if you're having a hard time sleeping at night, it might be good to start a practice of some of these as you settle in for sleep, or maybe using it first thing in the morning to start your day.
Very good. Type your questions for Tessa in the chat. Many of the questions are clinical, and maybe you could just speak briefly. This workshop is for you as mental health and healthcare workers to use for yourselves. But just to shed a little light, Lisa asked, my clients are in jail where I'm doing work just over the phone. What is the shortest tool I can use? I guess what's the easiest tool to use over the phone?
Wow, that's a great question. For me, I think visualization could work really well over the phone, right? If you can practice your guided meditation, you could even have a script in front of you if you're not comfortable creating your own. You setting the tone of your voice, you could ask the person on the other end of the phone, maybe you could teach them really quickly, like how to tap on their shoulders or on their chest to get that bilateral stimulation going. And then you could just read off of a guided imagery script or take them into a safe space. Now, what I do, it's interesting. Remember, a lot of the work is around trauma for EMDR. So trauma experiences, and some people have a hard time tapping into a safe, calm space. So that is something, and even for yourself, maybe there's just, you have a hard time relaxing in the environment that you're in, or everything that kind of comes up is a reminder of a traumatic experience. So I also want to encourage people to be creative with that. It can be a person in your life. It could be someone, like a superhero character, or your favorite character in a book. It can be, think of yourself in the universe or up in space. It was, so it could really be anything to what you create. So going back to the question, I think you can easily do that on the phone. I also think breathing exercises. I love box breathing. And so you could have the person identify something within the room that's a square, and they can practice box breathing.
That's lovely. Diane asked, at what point during the light stream did you say you could use BLS?
So for that one, you don't necessarily have to use BLS. BLS also installs the experience. So I use it with the Q word in the safe space because we're installing that. But I do think you could use BLS at any point during the light stream exercise. And I'm sorry I didn't incorporate that in the beginning, but I think you could use that anytime through the experience as you're imagining the light stream passing through your head and down through your body. It tends to slow my pace, slow me down, and allow me to envision the light a little bit more.
Love it. Laura shared, I love the 5 senses and imagining my safe, calm space on a chairlift in Colorado all by myself. That's
Nice.
beautiful. The sounds and smells of nature, quiet, calm, even the sound of the chairlift moving, cool air. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Love that.
Yeah, I want to encourage everyone as mental health workers, our containers are very full right now. So I want to encourage everyone to maybe use one resourcing technique every day to keep yourselves grounded, your anxiety low, yourselves calm during this very challenging time. I'm going to just open this up a little bit so we can see us. There we go. Anybody else? Questions? Anybody want to share anything? I can tell you honestly, I've had a very challenging week with a lot of, with clients, with just some administrative things and my own family stuff. And I really notice in my body and mind a difference from 10:55 to now. So if you feel that way, just give us a thumbs up or type in the chat. Very curious how this has helped you. And I'm really very interested in helping you as mental health professionals keep your buckets of tools full and keep your bucket of overwhelm low. So this workshop is going to be offered every week with a different guest expert offering a different technique. And I want to say thank you so much. I honor you, Tessa, for donating your time. This is extremely valuable, helpful to me personally, and to my practice as well. So on behalf of everybody on the call, I want to thank you.
You're welcome. We all need to support each other during these times and in our work in general.
Yes.
You know, we're all doing really tough, good work, necessary work. And so it's my pleasure to offer something like this.
Beautiful. So I honor all of you. Keep doing the great, amazing work that you're doing, and we hope to see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone.